puppets. You know, it's a phenomena. I have no idea how it came about or where it came about, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It seems that they're everywhere. You know, I was traveling, and it's not just here in the North America, it's all over the place. So today we're going to try to make a fidget cube. Now, the fidget cube is kind of a upscaled version of the Poppet toy. I'm sure you've all seen one of these. So we'll try to make something, you know, a little bit unique, a little bit different, something that can be used. Uh, we'll take, you know, stock pieces of things we have lying around the house. It doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be that. It's what you have available, and then we'll try to put it together to make this little toy here. And I thank you for coming. Hope you'll enjoy this little video, and enjoy. Okay, so let's get right into it now. Fidget toys. I don't know if you have any kids at home, but these are a phenomena which I don't quite understand, but they're all over the place. Most recently, my youngest daughter actually got a Fidget Cube. Now, what is a Fidget Cube, you ask? Well, it's just as the name implies, it's a cube with a bunch of little dials and push buttons and stuff. Now, unfortunately, she lost it, so I couldn't show you what it looks like, but I thought to myself, well, why don't I make something for her that's actual, you know, does something. So I went through my stash of switches, and you know, we got some push button switches, and actually, you know, those try me switches you find in on the toys, you know, so these will actually, I think, fit quite nicely. So, you know, put something. So in order to power this, I actually thought I would use maybe one of these type of batteries, you know, an E90 or something similar. You know, problem is it's 1.5 volts and it doesn't really like to drive the LEDs very good. So, and that, I went online and I actually purchased one of these lithium cells here. This one is model PL102530. Let me zoom in if you want to take a look at that. Yeah, there's some glare, but yeah, so PL102530. Anyway, it's a 680 milliamp hour. I don't think I really needed it that big, but because it's a lot thicker than I thought it would be. But of course, with these type of batteries, we of course need to have a protection circuit. So those came in the form of these little boards, and so these together, you know, this just plugs right into the board, like so, and then it's a USB-C charge. Now, what I'm thinking is, for this Fidget Cube, which is just stock metal, show you the actual size of it real quick. So it's a 1.5 inch square. I just had some lying around, so I actually just cut it, and then to make it into a cube, I have this part that I use for another project, but I'll cut it down, weld it so I'll have one side closed. Now for this side, obviously I would need access, you know, to get the electronics and all that, which, you know, will fit quite nicely, you know, if you think about it. And then a couple of these switches inside here and there, so things. And what I'm thinking of doing, instead of drilling a bunch of little holes for like LEDs here, I'll actually make a little insert out of epoxy. So what I'll do is we'll cut, you know, 1 centimeter worth of material in inches, you know, about 1/2 inch of material from another stock part, and then we'll lube it up and then set in what we want to set in. I'm thinking of like putting a couple of LEDs here, you know, these little LEDs, a bunch of those. So just set those into the epoxy, you know, maybe like three per side or 2 per side, I don't know. And then a couple of colored LEDs in the corner here, and maybe a couple in the back, you know, just sneak it in the back there. And that way, you know, when she pushes a button or does something, it will react to the LED. So right now, let me go ahead and cut the piece off from the other stack, and we'll make a little well, I guess not template, but an insert. So we'll fill that up with epoxy, set these in, and I'm actually thinking of setting this in as well into the epoxy, and we'll just have this USB-C sticking out. I don't know how I'm going to keep that from filling up with epoxy yet. I'm still thinking of that, but I'll go ahead and cut those out, and we'll come back in a bit. Okay, before I get to that, I just noticed that the on the board here, let's see if I can focus that up. On the board here we have the plus and minus, and it makes a lot of notes to make sure that you have that proper. However, on the connector that came pre-attached to the battery, when you try to fit it in, it's actually, it should be, so it doesn't go in this way, it only goes in this way, but they're backwards. So what we need to do is we need to take these out of its of this little sleeve here and just reverse them. So that's something we need to pay attention to. So if you get some things like these and you just think that they're going to be, you know, universal, unfortunately that's not the case. So we'll just quickly swap these around. Ooh, I don't want to short that. So I'm going to quickly swap those around, and then we'll get back on it. So quickly want to check to make sure that this is functioning properly. So we got the plus and minus here, and we do not. Not that it matters if it's grounded or not, but let's see. Why don't we have battery output? This battery dead completely? Well, I'll put it on the charger and we'll charge it up, see what happens. I'm not getting any voltage. Maybe the protection circuit is not allowing anything through until this is charged. So I'll go ahead and put that on the charger now as we continue with the other things. Okay, so what I have now, what I've done is I've cut that piece off that I said I would cut, you know, a little bit of it. So this will not go here, but I'm using this now, and I'm setting this down on just a piece of flat iron here that I have laying around with some wax paper, and we're going to put it on with this clear epoxy resin. We'll fill it up, and I'll also use a white lithium grease on the outside so that the epoxy won't stick to it, and it'll be easy to demold. And I'm thinking, while that other one is charging, we'll take a risk. And I want to set this one in the epoxy, one, to make it rigid, so that, you know, the cycles of pulling the USB cable in and out will keep it. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to pack this full with lithium grease, and maybe that way we'll get it, we won't get epoxy inside, and then afterwards I'll just use a contact cleaner to flesh it out. So that's the plan. Let me go ahead and do that. You know, it's just a simple one part to one part mixing of of the epoxy to the hardener and the resin itself. I'll fill this with lithium grease, set it in the mold, and also put let me get these LEDs ready. I'm glad you reminded me. So I'll just put some LEDs, you know, a bunch of these white ones, so that it could be used like a flashlight maybe. So I have a selector switch here that has two poles, you know, a common and on this side and on that side. So what I'll do maybe is, if it's put in this position, it'll be like a flashlight, and if it's put in this position, then pushing the buttons will activate some nice LED colors. So we'll fill that area up with LEDs, and then we'll just set the battery on top and zip tie it to the board. So I'll do that now, and bring you guys back when hopefully it works. Okay, so I put the lithium grease on the outside of the mold, or the inside rather, so you can see it's nice and lubed up. And then I also filled up the USB-C port with lithium grease, and obviously the logic here is when it's in the epoxy, the epoxy won't fill up into the USB-C port, and then I can just flush it out with contact cleaner, and hopefully it'll work. So let me now mix up the two parts 1-to-1 to fill that mold up, and then I'll put this stuff together and bring you back. So we just mixed up the epoxy, and this stuff is messy. The mold is kind of holding. The epoxy is really loose, for lack of a better word. So I don't know if these are going to actually stand upright. So what I'm going to do is let the epoxy kind of cure a bit, and then I'll shove these down while it's still in its liquid phasey, but not so drippy that I can't get this inside. So we're just going to put these in like you just saw, just kind of stick those down there, and we'll go from there. Oops, I don't want to lose that one. Alright, so bring it back in a bit. Well, I don't know if I mixed the parts wrong. I did kind of eyeball it 1-to-1, but this stuff is not curing. It's only been about 20 minutes or so, but it's still pretty loose. So in the meantime, I probably mixed it up wrong. So assuming, you can see it's already bled out from the bottom area from the mold, but that's okay. When it gets a little thicker, hopefully it will get thicker, then I can set those LEDs inside and the board inside. So in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and clean these offcuts and weld it to that one side and grind it down to make it look pretty, so at least we'll just have this one part left. So let me take care of that now while we're waiting. Hopefully that thing will cure up and it'll look good. Okay, so I'm back with a very bad welding job, but you know, it's the thought that counts, right? Anyway, so I welded that piece here, so now we have a wow, that's pretty bad. Anyway, I never claimed to be a good welder, it's just for fun. But we smooth it out. Maybe I should smooth it out a little bit more, I don't know, we'll see. But other than that, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it's you know, it's not quite a cube, but you know, it'll do. Nothing is sharp. There's nothing that's protruding that could hurt anything. I tried to sand it down and file it down. There's you know, I should spend a little more time and file this down to make it all flush. So I'll do that. But you know, this epoxy, yeah, it's not enjoying its life. I don't know. I do admit this is my first time using epoxy, and this quantities rather. I mean, obviously we've used epoxy many times to glue things together, but this amount to actually try to do something I've never done. So let's see where it goes. I'll work on this a little bit more, try to clean it up a bit, and then hopefully the epoxy will be a little more set and we can put the LEDs in and then assemble this thing. It's been about an hour and a half, and the good news is this is gelling, so it is getting thicker. The bad news is I still can't seem to fix the LEDs in place. They want to fall down, so I'm going to go ahead and try to put this one in. As you remember, we packed this with lithium grease, and hopefully it'll just sink to the bottom, smoosh it out, and not drop. I could probably just put a stick or something too. Yeah, didn't want to see my arm there, did you? So it doesn't fall backwards into the... Okay, when you want something you can't find it, right? So that seems to be standing up. Nope, it is falling, but we'll just put this as a kind of a brace so it doesn't fall backwards. I mean, it's getting there. It's almost ready to... I should have done this 2-pour. I live and learn. So we should have actually poured it just a little layer on the bottom to set these LEDs in first, and then we could have used the once they're set, then we could have topped it off with another batch. But we'll see if we can make this one work for us now. But yeah, they just creep so slowly, ever so slowly, you don't even notice it. Put a couple of these, put one of these LEDs in just for giggles. And let's see. Yeah, it also wants to fall down, but I think we can do the same. Put a piece of Q-tip here. Oops, now it's going this way. I wonder if I could just sit this in the middle of the two. Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. So yeah, let's stick 3 of these on the Q-tip here, or cotton swab or whatever. Going a lot harder than I thought it would. Alright, well, those are in. Are they straight? No. Let's see if we can get it straightened out a bit. And this boy wants to fall as well. I should have used something a bit heavier. What do I have a bit heavier around here that I don't have to... Alright, trying to do 2 things at once was not a smart idea, right? Alright, let's see, what do I got a bit heavier? Let's quick, that I can grab maybe a screwdriver. No, this is too heavy, but it takes up too much room, because I still want to put those other LEDs in. We got 3 here, so let's use this thing. Let's put the screwdriver here to keep the board from falling down. Yeah, that's good enough. These are holding up, so let's put 3 more of these LEDs. Yeah, I did want color as well, but at least these white ones can act like a flashlight. So we'll put these on this side. Alright, so we got some white LEDs in place. That guy is still wanting to fall down, so we'll push him up a little bit. I'm just making a mess. Yeah, I'll be amazed if this thing works. Can you see that? Yeah, it's just using the Q-tip or the cotton wooden thing handle to hold those in place so they don't fall down. And I'm half tempted to put a couple of blue ones, if I can, use the screwdriver as a, oops, you know what, let's leave it alone until it gets a little more set, and then we can just add, and maybe even just drill and add, I don't know. Or because it's going to be inside, it's clear, we just might have it hanging inside, and just, you know, when you click it, it'll just kind of be seen from inside. Yeah, this is a little bit harder than I thought. So let me see where this goes, and continue with a little bit more, and then we'll get back together when things look a little bit more advanced. Well, the good news is the epoxy hardened quite nicely. The bad news is a lot of it kind of leaked out of it, but I think that we can use that to our benefit. What I'll do now is actually connect these LEDs up, put a couple of these other colorful ones in a second row, which now they'll be embedded like a few a little bit behind these, but first let's quickly test that to see if we have these LEDs are working. Yes, I will unpot it in a second, but since this is a 3.7 volt battery pack, we'll go ahead and just do 3.7 volt, and then we'll limit the current to, let's do 300 milliamps. 288, that's close enough. This way we don't have to worry about excessive current and blowing out the LEDs since they're in there. So let's see if we got working. Let me see that. Working. 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 Cool. Alright, so at least we know that the potted LEDs are working. So I'm half tempted not to take this out of its mold now here, because go ahead and wire this up. So let me wire this up, and then we'll put the LEDs, and then we'll mix another batch of epoxy. We'll set it down. It's not the hardest epoxy, so I'm assuming I didn't do the 1-to-1 correctly, so maybe I should measure it out on this next round. So let me go ahead and do that now, wire this thing up, and I'll bring you guys back in a bit. So just to show you what I'm doing, and I'm taking these leads from the LEDs and just going to solder them together here on the inside of the epoxy, and hopefully that
well, that way, not hopefully, that way we only just need to do 2 leads. I could have actually connected those 2 up, I guess, but well, this is good enough for what we're doing. And the fact that this is not clear, I mean, rather if I smoke the epoxy, I'm okay with it, because this epoxy is more of a placeholder than anything. So now with those 2 leads, I should just be able to touch one of these and they should all light up. So yep, all 3 are lighting up now, and all 3 are lighting up now. Great. So our flashlight portion is somewhat complete, and now we'll do the put the other LEDs in there to make it look pretty. And you know, all I did to fold down these leads was just use a dental pick and just folded them down and then just soldered them. So they're good, they're not going anywhere, and like I said, these are going to be embedded in the next round of epoxy. Alright, so let me get to that, and this is what it looks like from the side for now. Again, remember, this is just the mold, and it's going to come out and go inside the Fidget Cube itself, and we'll make it look pretty. Yeah, incidentally, the battery was charging all night, just to see. So now let's check to see if we have voltage, and as you can see, we have 4.13 on here. I'm not using the 5 volt. I wonder if it's a no. Okay, so it's not a 5 volt. There's no conversion. It's just purely a charge circuit. So this will tap off these leads here. Let me zoom you in a little bit more. That's sensitive. So we'll tap off these leads here and get the the battery voltage, which is this lead on this board here. And they're both the same board, they're identical, but I wanted to charge it and just make sure that we have everything functional, and then we'll go to this one. So I mixed up a new batch of epoxy. Hopefully this is closer to the 1-to-1. It didn't turn out bad, but you know, at the end of the day, I guess we should follow the instructions, right? So I've been mixing it for about 3-4 minutes. It says 3 to 5 minutes. Is it right or wrong? I don't know. But anyway, I went ahead and put the LEDs this time ahead of time on the Q-tips, or the cotton thingies. Well, and so just go ahead and pour this in now, slowly, just to kind of hot those as well. And this stuff is really liquidy. It doesn't get jelly for quite a while, so let's see here. I don't want to get it inside that connector. Yeah, I don't think it's going to leak. That's why I didn't want to undo the mold right now, because I wanted to do the second pour, which I guess in hindsight is the correct way to do it, is to get the 2 pours out versus a single pour. Or I guess we could do 1 pour and then drill them out. Like I said, this epoxy is more so of a placeholder inside the Fidget Cube. Trying to get as much as I can, so it could be right at the top. We can always sand it down a bit and, you know, get the shape all proper. Okay, So if yesterday, this is the day after, by the way, from yesterday. So if yesterday is any indication, that thing hardened up about 8 hours later. So we'll let that set for 8 hours. We might start drilling the holes for the switches, figure out a placement for that in the meantime. So hopefully that hardens up nicely, and we'll take a look again in a bit. So it's the next day, so this is 2 days in total, so we started this project, and the epoxy hardened quite nicely actually. So I guess we mixed it properly. So now I'm going to try to get this out of this metal without breaking the epoxy, and then we'll put together we'll wire this up so that it does something. Now of course there's not a lot of room left, especially when we put the battery here in the middle. Obviously I'm going to have to move some of those terminals around a bit, but when we pull it out of the mold, yeah, you'll see that these we'll tuck them in and make them look nice so that this is kind of flush. So let's try it together, see what happens. I don't want to break it because it became a lot more brittle than I had hoped. I actually did something else. Whoa, okay, well, nice. All right, at least we got it one step done. Let's pull you back out a little bit. All right. Oh wow, that looks pretty good actually. Well, I hope that comes out. What do you think? Should we try to break it on the side here? Break these things off. Nice. Okay. Okay. So far so good, I guess. I think that that worked out pretty good with the now hopes is we just push this boy out, and of course that's not going to work. So what I'll do is I'll lightly tap, I'll heat up the outside maybe, because it looks like the epoxy actually kind of adhered to the underside of this mold. Should have thought about that probably, but I think with a little persuasion, some gentle heating up here a little bit on the sides, and some light, very light tapping, because I don't want to break the epoxy. We're good, but first, what the heck? Let's quickly check to see that the other LEDs work. We didn't check that yesterday, but hopefully they'll work. So let's see, this one is it on? Nope. I guess we should turn the power on first, right? Alright. Nice. Oh, I guess you can't see that. So red, green, and blue. No, red's not very bright, but okay, what the heck. Blue, green, and this red is not very bright, but anyway, it'll get us for what we want to do. So let me go ahead and demold this, take it out of its out of this thing here, and then we'll take another look. And this it looks like no epoxy actually flowed into the USB-C port, so we'll look at that here in a bit also. So let me try to demold this, get that out of its this case, and then we'll take a look at it again. So basically what I did was I sandpapered this backside here that seemed to be connected, and then I just used a little piece of wood and started to push it out, and it seems like it just is coming right through. So seeing it together, hopefully it'll get through. So it's not coming straight out because it's binding a bit, but let's see if we can get this out without breaking it. There we go. Alright, so the trick of using the lithium worked quite nicely. So I'll get a piece of paper and clean that up and then smooth it out. And the nice thing about this here is it's indexed ironically, so there's an indent, so this actually will only fit one way onto the other side. And just for curiosity, oh, if I put that in, it's going to be hard to take out, but you know, the funny thing is I've made it upside down. Oh great, no, perfect. Yeah, so this is going to fit inside here like that. I'm not going to press it in right now because it'll be hard to get out, but you get the picture. So we'll press that in and get that done. So let me do some cleanup and we'll continue with our little fidget cube. Yeah, I know. I wonder what happened here too. So let's clean that out. I'm just using contact cleaner to flush out the lithium. Make a mess around here. Oh boy, I hope that didn't come in there. Seems to be a little ledge there that probably is left over from the epoxy. So let's use this tooth thing here. And I need a little bit more glassies. Yeah, let me take a look at that. Okay, yeah, it's just a very small lip here. Glad I put on my glasses because I don't want to pull out the thing. There we go. Wow, that looks almost 100, not 100, but it looks really good. So you remember we packed this with lithium. Now I guess the true test is to see if the USB cable will fit in, and it fit in. And let's also do one more test, see if the LED lights light up. Of course I need to get a battery pack that works. Yep, okay. So this one, yeah, I mean it's just a very short burst of light. You can look at that LED there, and that's because the battery's not plugged in right now. But basically, it's yeah. I don't know if you were able to see that. So that means the connections are still solid. Yeah, did you see that? Great. Wow. All right. So we've got our charging port. We've got our LEDs. We'll sand this down and finely sand it to make it clear, so that this way it'll look pretty. Yeah, I mean it's, you know, not 100%, but turned out a little better than I was expecting. So do some of the wiring up of these LEDs now, and from there we'll continue with putting this thing together. I probably will end up drilling a couple of screws on the side of this here so that it'll fit in nicely. So of course, and also I don't want it to be pushed in, so the more they play, the more I don't want this to be pushed in. So we'll look at that when we get to that point. But so now I'll just continue with doing the wiring, and we'll take a look at it here together in a bit. All right, I'm not going to bore you with watching me connect these LEDs together, but basically the blue will connect into one, the red I'll connect to one, the green I'll connect to one, and of course the 6 white LEDs will connect to one to make it like the flashlight. Now I wanted to just quickly explain the selection of the resistor. and when I looked at the output of this battery, now if I plug the battery in, it's really hard to pull the battery out, so I'm not going to do that right now. I don't want to damage the connector. But when I charged it up last, I'll show you later, but take my word for it, it's 3.7 is the voltage rating, but it was around 4.1, 4.2 fully charged. But anyway, let's just say 4 volts as an average. So if we do a quick calculation, the simple 4 volts, and we divide that into the 20 milliamp maximum current rating of these LEDs, which is actually on the box itself here. See if you can see that. So anyway, it's on the box here. So when we do that, we get a 200 ohm resistor requirement. So we'll go ahead and wire these up with 200 ohm resistors so we don't exceed the current and burn it out. So I'll do all that now and bring you back when it's ready to decide what switches we put on the box. So where I'm at right now, I actually plugged in the battery. I wired up all the LEDs. I put too much heat on one of them, so we lost the green, one of the green LEDs. But basically, so it's, yeah, can you see that? Let me zoom in on that. So this is the green. I got only one LED there. Then this would be the blue. So I got the blues, nice. And I didn't want to use red for the red since that's power, so I used the yellow. And then for the what we call flashlight mode, it's actually, I recalculated, and it should be around, since the 6 diodes are in parallel, I could have actually lowered the resistance value, but I've already went ahead and soldered everything in, and I just don't think I want to go through that right now. So it's going to be more like a night light rather than a flashlight. The room finished up quickly. There's not a lot of room left here, so when we think about putting all this into this little box, it's going to be a challenge. Actually, I might have to do something about that. So is that going flat? Yeah, that'll go flat. So I was thinking of putting one of these rocker switches maybe on the end here, which would go from clicker mode. And I was also thinking of using these limit switches. But after thinking about it, I think that's going to complicate the insides, and plus it takes up a lot of room. So we'll just stick to the good old push buttons. So I'll put one on each face here, and maybe the rocker switch on the back here. I'm still contemplating whether or not to put a, just a simple pot or potentiometer, just to have it in there. But for now, that's where we are. So the next step, this is done, and the good thing is that USB port is working, and so we were able to get the USB port from no epoxy in the port by filling it up with lithium grease, and it's still conductive, so we're good there. So the next step for this project is to just drill holes, and I think the way I'm going to attach it, I'm not even going to put these little ones. I was actually thinking of putting these little ones around here, just to make it look kind of different and neat. But what I think is we'll just stick with these big ones. I like this one. This is the one that came out of this Try Me button that you get off of the toys. You get free toy, the toys. Then you're supposed to throw this away, but it actually has a better surface to glue. So I'm probably just gonna hot glue these in place. Just a couple of dabs here. I don't know how well that's gonna hold up, with especially a young person pushing at it all the time, but we'll see how that goes. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just simply going to drill these out for these buttons. I'll probably put a button on the back, so this way if you want to hold it upright like that, you can hold it upright. So we'll put a rocker switch on one of the sides that doesn't interfere. Like I said, this sort of clocked. I guess we could always change that, that's no big deal. So the rocker switch, we'll put it on this side here, because that's the side that doesn't have any. So just X marks the spot, just so I don't forget. So we'll put the rocker switch there, and then we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4 push buttons, and there you have it. It'll be a unique, one-of-a-kind little toy. Alright, so let me go ahead and drill those out, and then we're getting closer, so hopefully we'll finish this up here in a bit. So drilled out the holes for the switches. Now these tactile switches are not the they're obviously not meant for this, they're meant for something else, but I think with some hot glue on the sides we could put them like that, and it's sitting a little bit below, but it does give a satisfying click there, so I think we're good with that. And that yes, I did center all of these but when I was drilling this one out, which is technically in the center, but since it's not exactly a cube, I said okay, I'll just keep going down, and well, when you're looking at things at an angle, that one came off center. So since it's just a toy, we can get away with it, but obviously if you're doing more precision work you want to take more care about doing things like that. So my big problem, or my big concern now, is fitting the battery, the board, and the switch. Now the switch is meant to sit here, and as you see, it clears the board, and these will lay flat here when I'm ready to do that, so that it'll clear that. But that might mean I need to put the battery under it. Yeah, I think we'll get away with that. Yeah, we'll put the battery under it, and that way the battery will just sit flat there. Alright, so continuing with this, so what I'm going to do now, because I'm almost ready for assembly, I'll just, clean it off a little bit with acetone and try to get some of these burrs off if there's any left, and then just spray it a nice chrome color so it's shiny, and then we'll start assembling. So where are we now? Painted that up, but it's not the best paint job. But then again, this is actually kind of a conceptual thing to see if it will actually do anything. But yeah, prep is important. I mean, I obviously made quite a bit of mistakes in the grinding and sanding process, but anyway, moving on. We're not going to dwell on that. So we know that this section works. We're just going to fit these little switches here, and that'll give the ability to push it. So I'm going to use the one that came off the packaging, and just to show you how that was done, I'll see if I can do this on the camera. Anyway, just basically just tear this thing apart. It's not that hard, and then these two clips, just push it in, and this will pop right out. Of course it should pop right out, but ouch. And since we're not thinking about using the this casing, it doesn't matter if you break it or not, but yeah, that's pretty much all it is to it. And then this switch is held in place by those plastic tabs. Just kind of move that out of the way, and the switch pops out. So if you got a bunch of those lying around, I hope that was in the camera shot, I didn't pay attention. So this is what it looks like. It's just, you know, interestingly enough, the you know, it's not a very expensive little package, but you know, it's something that is cool. And this one actually has a taller switch to it, so that's gonna be nice for that one. See that, it's got a little bit of a taller switch. That's cool. I wish I had a bunch of those actually. That'd be nice. That'd fit perfectly into that. See that? It's just right flush, or a little bit above flush, a little proud. Now the biggest question I've had to myself is, how am I going to connect those switches to this thing? Obviously, you know, I made this out of metal, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually use super glue and hot glue. So we'll do super glue and hot glue. So I'll set it down with some super glue. The problem is these little tabs that are holding this switch together is proud, so it doesn't let this go flush. So we'll put some hot glue and see how that works. So let's get the hot glue. Let me get the hot glue gun and we'll look at it, see how we can get it done. Well, actually, before we get to the hot glue part, so these are the other two. So I have 4 holes. So these are the other 2 switches I'm going to use. These come, as you know, to be mounted on a PCB. But what we do is just flip them out so that they lie flush, and this way there's no risk of this poking into the battery pack, because those are sharp. And what we'll do is we'll just you know, we just need to come from this positive line to one and then out to the light. That's all, because the lights are all grounded already at the base here. So I'll go ahead and make up a couple cables. I'll just use these already because these are already pre-wired. That makes it nice. And then I'll just make up a couple cables, and then what we'll do is on the switch here, you remember we had this switch. What we'll do is we'll use this middle portion to feed it with the power line, and then one of them will go to the night light / flashlight, and then the other one will go off to the 4 switches, which will then in turn light up those LEDs. So let me wire those up. And incidentally, this resistor pack I got, you remember we calculated that the resistors should be around 200 ohms, so I just went to the next highest one. This is a package, you know, I just got all these resistors in here. You know, I think 20 of each, but it's pretty good. And then here, you know, it actually labels them, so you can just find it pretty quickly. So, you know, here's 180 ohm resistors package and a 270. So the 220 kind of fell in the middle here. So just use that one for ours. And let me go ahead and assemble those little wires, and then we'll see how we're going to set that into the housing here. Alright, so I've got these all wired up to the switches. So we got the 4 switches here, and then we'll wire that one up last. But let's go ahead and try to glue one of them and see if it's going to even work. So I'll just put a dab of hot glue. Oh, you can't see that. Put a dab of hot glue. Trying to avoid hitting the switch, which I'm not doing a very good job. Alright, we'll move it around once it's in there. And I think it's not going to do it because the metal was so cold that it just immediately set the glue. Okay, that was... So I wonder if we should just go straight to the Hey, so the switch is still working. Well, it did adhere quite nicely though to the switch. And it's not coming off easily. Alright, that's the hardest one to get to anyway. It's in the back and my stubby fingers don't reach it very well. So let's try that again. And put a little bit of glue here and there and blob it around, and even if it gets on the switch will probably end up moving. Alright, here we go. No, yes. Just a little more to the left. Did we get it? Oops. We got it, but is it in there? It lost its clickiness from the glue, but we'll scrape that out. So let me just put a little bit of glue inside, a nice blob of glue around it. I mean, say what you will about hot glue, but it does have its usefulness in some applications. So let's just let that little glue solidify a bit, and then we'll see if that's going to be enough to hold it. At the end of the day, if it does come loose, just take it apart. I drilled a couple holes here, so we'll put a couple of pins to set. I'm not worried about it coming out. I'm worried about it going deeper in to this part here, to go deeper inside and not being able to pull it out. So let me let that glue quickly set up, and it's more so curiosity right now than anything to see what's going to happen. Yeah, I left the leads a little long, so it's easy to get a hold of. So basically I'm going to do that 4 more times, well 3 more times with the switches, and then this one is just a screw. We'll just screw that in, and let me set those in place, and then we'll come to the final assembly hopefully. Great, we got everything wired up. Now to show you it works, so when we flip it in this direction, we've got the flashlight / night light, and when we flip it in that direction, now these side buttons will light up a certain LED. Now, yes, I'm going to talk about it in a second here. Now this, and of course we wired one of them up to do that. So next step is to scrunch it into that package, which I don't think it's going to fit, but let me first put this in its place, and then I'll bring you along for the scrunching in, if it works. Well, it turns out I need to put the battery in first in order to put the switch in. So let's put the battery in. It's sitting on the bottom, pressed up quite nicely. Now, I thought about actually setting the battery in the epoxy. And then I thought to myself, well, these packs are known to expand and potentially release some, magic smoke. So I didn't want to take the risk of, creating a glass bomb in here. And so at the end of the day, if this thing does go kaboom. Alright, so, well, I hope it doesn't go kaboom. So we got that to work. We got the switches to work. Yeah, albeit it's not great. So the next step is to set this thing in, and hopefully everything will just kind of slide into place. So let me get my bearings straight here. Yeah, there's a lot of glue, but I'm gonna just, I think it goes like that. That's the way I just thought about it. And oops, let's turn it off so it doesn't scare me. I think I blew something up. Is there any interference? There's a little bit of interference with the hot glue here. Let's cut some of that out. And I think it is going to not fit. Now, let me grab a small piece of wood and a hammer, or just actually, let's just hammer this thing down here without pinching anything, I hope. Seems to have cleared, but never be so certain. Yes, I know. I'm not too happy with this, what it came out, but we learned a lot from our mistakes here, so there seems to be okay, so what's happening is there's a little lip here from the form because I pushed it out from this side, so this is flush, so that'll fit nicely, but this side has a little bit of a lip, so I'm gonna go ahead and quickly sand that down, and then we'll try to squish it again. Okay, I sanded it down. So now there shouldn't be a lip. Now the way I did think about it is this board sticking out is going to fall in line with that switch there, but yes, I left way too long of cables. My cable management really sucked on this thing, but anyway, it's just for, like I say, it was more to try it, see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. It was for us anyway. So now that looks like it's gonna go in there, we'll use a piece of wood. I don't know if I want to go too far in, but because I don't want to puncture that battery. If we hear something making noise, then we know we've gone too far. I mean, the idea was to have this sitting flush, but I guess we'll be happy with that. Alright, so I don't think I even need to put the pins here and to hold it, because that's not going anywhere. I don't even know how I'll be able to get it out if I need to. But there it is. So we'll do a test here. So that's nice. That's, let's say, doable. And this one is terrible. I can't even touch it. So maybe, I don't know, go to the big box store and find something to push that switch in more so. But those red LEDs aren't very exciting anyway. Alright, so this is Fidget Cube 1.0, and we'll discuss this here on the outro. Yeah, we'll talk about some things that I would do differently. Well, a lot of things, but obviously the paint is terrible. But yeah, we'll talk about it here in a second on the outro. But there she is. Before we go to the outro though, just to show that this is charging with the USB. So we have our power bank, hopefully it's switched on, and when we plug it in we should see the red LED from the charging circuit. So you see that the BMS, I guess we call it, the battery management system, wasn't damaged in this epoxy mold here. I think we could actually take it back a bit further, but I'm not gonna push it. Just leave it for that. Alright, so see you in a bit.
Wow, so we finally finished the cube, the Fidget Cube, and you know, quite honestly, I don't know what to say about it, but you know, it is. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Okay, so say hello to the YouTube world, little D. Hi. This is my daughter, and she's playing with the Fidget Cube now. And so, what did we learn? Well, we learned that you don't have to use the metal to do this. You can use anything. In fact, my intention at the beginning was to use acrylic sheets that you buy at the big box store, and that way it would have made it easier and not to worry about the so much about the metal and all that. What I learned though that I really enjoyed was the fact that I could use the metal with a little bit of lithium so that we can make a mold, and now we can do that. So just kind of play with different things in the future. I think I selected the battery a little bit too big. I could have gone smaller. I just went off of the size that would fit in the cavity. But of course, when you started to add all the uh, switches and all that, it became a little bit tight fit. And of course, one thing that's important, I might not have used the switches that I used, but then again, this is what I had available. I think, part of the fun is to do something and to enjoy it. So, did you enjoy it?
Yes.
All right. So, I wish you all a happy holidays if I don't see you beforehand. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye bye.